Hi, I'm John Notgrass with Notgrass History, and this is our Laura Ingalls Wilder unit study. We are excited about this way to dig deeper into the life of Laura Ingalls Wilder and the way she lived her life, daily life at the time, and people she saw and knew, places she lived, and the different experiences she had during her long life. You can scroll through the table of contents to see the different areas that we cover. We introduce you to Pa and Ma's families, the Ingalls and Quiners, and how they met. There were actually 3 Ingalls and 3 Quiners who married each other over the space of 3 years, including Pa and Ma. Laura was born shortly after the Civil War, but it affected her family. 4 of her uncles were involved in the Civil War, and it affected everyone across the country in one way, including people in Wisconsin. Even though there were no battles fought in Wisconsin, people from Wisconsin were involved in the war in various ways. We also look at Almanzo Wilder's family, his childhood in New York, and then his family's move to Spring Valley, Minnesota when he was a young man. We have sections about each of the places Laura lived and how those are connected to the Little House books. So in Wisconsin, Kansas, back to Wisconsin, Minnesota, Iowa, back to Minnesota, and then South Dakota. Talk about homesteading, about Laura and Almanzo's time together, their courtship and marriage, the difficult times they had early in their marriage through sickness and loss, and then their decision to move to Missouri, where they spent most of their life together. We talk about how Laura developed her abilities as a writer and how she began to write the Little House books. And then we explore what happened to these people after the Little House books. So Almanzo's parents and siblings, and then Pa and Ma, each of Laura's sisters, Mary, Carrie, and Grace, and then Laura's daughter, Rose. We also have a genealogical chart that shows you the connections between Laura's grandparents, great-grandparents, her grandparents, and her aunts and uncles, and her cousins. So that's a fun way to explore American history and see when different people lived and how they were connected to each other. We dig a little deeper into some of the music that Laura talks about in her book. Laura mentions 127 different songs, and we have found audio recordings of many of those. A few of them are older recordings from the 1920s, and then some from the mid-1900s and some more modern ones. But our attempt is to help you hear what those songs sounded like, and so that can add to your enjoyment of the Little House books if you're familiar with some of the songs. We help you know how to explore the Ingalls and Wilder sites located around the U.S., and then we provide few resources for digging deeper into food, clothing, toys, and games. I'm going to show you one example page just to show you how the course is laid out, to give you an example of what you can do. We give you lots of ideas for activities. You can choose to do some, all, or none of them, depending on the ages of your children and how much time you want to spend on this. You can read through the lessons, the pages pretty easily. We have maps that show you where the events took place. You can zoom in and out and see where they are in relation to where you live or where your relatives live. And if you're planning a trip, it can help you see how close you'll be and if you want to decide to include that on your travels. We have lots of historic photographs. If you click on a picture, you can zoom in and get a little closer look. So this is a picture of Independence, Kansas from around the time the Ingalls settled there. Here's a map showing where you can visit a reconstructed cabin. We have visited almost all of the Ingalls and Wilder sites around the country, and we have produced these videos which give you a little virtual tour of many of those sites. And we also have some other videos that we found that help you explore different topics. In this case, in Little House on the Prairie, Laura describes the process of digging a well by hand. We found a video of people doing that in recent years using the same kind of tools and technology to dig a well by hand. And then we include notes. In this case, as mentioned at the beginning of this video, do not try this at home. So we try to help you know, again, if that's something your kids are interested in, there's a video, but if not, just skip it and move on. We talk to you about places you can visit, again, provide details and links to those. And then here's an example of the songs. So if you click on this link, it will take you to our homeschool history site where we have found these tracks to listen to. So these are 7 of the songs. We have 2 versions of one, an instrumental version of O Susanna, and then the version with the California lyrics related to the gold rush that Pa sings in the book. So we have historic music, that's just music, like Arkansas Traveler, for example. And this is actually a recording from the 1920s of the fiddler who, so it's not Pa playing, but it's someone who was probably influenced by similar styles of music. And so you can kind of get a taste of what it was like to hear Pa play the fiddle. And then lots of other songs, hymns. Laura talks about a wide variety of music, and so it's fun to hear those songs and think about them in the context of the books. And then we have some other activities, such as recipes. These are recipes that were inspired by or based on things that Laura talks about in her books. And then we also have some fun puzzles. Sometimes we'll have coloring pages or other activities, crafts. In this case, it's a puzzle. So here's an interior shot of the reproduction cabin, and you can turn this into an online puzzle. You can shuffle the pieces, decide how many pieces you want, and then shuffle them, and then have fun putting that back together. So your kids can take turns doing that. You can even time them if they want. There's a timer going up at the corner. But if that's too competitive, don't worry about that, about the timer. No problem. So that's an example of how one page is laid out. Again, you can navigate using the table of contents on the left, or there are buttons at the top and the right of each page to go to the previous page or the next page. So that's a quick introduction to how the course is laid out. We really appreciate your interest and hope it's a blessing to your family. Feel free to reach out if you have any questions, and thank you for homeschooling. Take care.